what I learned from Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady, during the Second World War, we said, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. I took this quotation very, very strongly and connected with my life. Before the Holocaust started, we lived a fairly normal life. I was working and studying, and I had several hobbies, like bookbinding, which was very unusual, photography, and I enjoyed reading. We lived for generation in the same city, but the city changed from Austro-Hungary to Hungary, Romania, back to Hungary, and back to Romania. When I received that I was drafted into Hungarian army, my first thing what came in my head that what will happen, or if the Germans occupied my hometown. My father was already taken into forced labor under Hungarian army. My brother was already taken into forced labor. My brother-in-law was forced labor. I was not 100% that what are waiting for me and how the whole thing will work out. With the top coat, backpack ready to go to a railroad station, and I kissed my family goodbye, not knowing that I will never see them again. After I kissed them, my grandmother pulled me aside, and she wanted to meet someone in a duplex. And as we entered with the next door, there was an old man with a long white beard. I never met him before in my life, with a prayer shawl draped over his shoulder. And as we entered, he put the prayer shawl over my head and he blessed me. When I received that blessing from that man, I didn't put too much importance because I was too much preoccupied. But later on, when I studied a little bit more, it was a priestly blessing. And that blessing was with me like a shield of protection. I'm not a religious individual, but I'm a very, very spiritual one. And I do believe that without that blessing, I would not be here today. When I arrived to that draft camp where I was drafted, I noticed the bulletin board. They're looking for volunteers with mechanical background. At first I didn't want to volunteer, but later on I volunteered. And with the group, maybe about 50, we were sent to Budapest to a tremendous big factories. And that factory manufactured aeroplanes, tanks, and just about everything connected to the war industry. And I was in that factory maybe for about 3 months. And I remember that a Hungarian captain singled me out. He said, "You, some of the points of your stars are loose." And told the sergeant in charge that I want to see the Jew in my office right now. So 3 of us, we walked to his office, no conversation, like a smirk on his face, and he started to beat me. Later on, I find out that Hungarian captain was in charge of the whole factory. about 100,000 workers. But he singled me out because the points of my star were loose, and that was the crime. So that Hungarian captain was beating me, and he was find out where I was working, and he paid me a visit every day for about 2 weeks. He picked up a piece of steel pipe and beating from the back. After the second week, I was in very, very bad shape. When I went back to the quarters, I told the man in charge, and I came up with a story. I showed my back, was in very, very bad shape, but then I opened my shirt, and my whole front was nothing but a solid scab and pus running out of my system. And I told the man, look like I have some kind of infection. Since you live in a very close quarters, please send me to a hospital, send me to a doctor to find out if I'm contagious or not. And next morning, put on a train, and we were taking about 250 miles west from Budapest to a real big army hospital. From the first day, I was kind of shocked because I received the same clean bed like everybody else. I had the same food like everybody else. I was treated like a human being. I stayed in the hospital maybe for about three and a half months. Every day, physician came from bed to bed, and as I recall, the last time I was told not to wait by the hospital because the man in charge wanted to see me. So the next morning I went to see that man, and he closed the door behind me. He says, "Son, I know who you are, and I know why you are here. I want you to hear it from me and from no one else, that in a couple of days we'll send you back to your unit." I just looked at him. He must be a saint, because it was important for me to hear it from him and from no one else. They will send me back. They are experiencing heavy casualty from the Russian front. Hungarian soldiers coming back without limb. They need a space. When I came back from the hospital, I was told that that Hungarian captain who was beating me was looking for me for a long, long time, finally gave up, but they tell me that it's a miracle happened in Budapest. A miracle happened because an angel by the name of Raoul Wallenberg, a Swedish diplomat, showed up in Budapest in late 1944 to save Jewish lives. And I was told, if I'm successful, if I'm able to get to see him, he can help me. So I went to see him. He gave me a temporary passport which said, whose name appears on this document under Swedish protection and waiting for a transport to go to Sweden. But the leader on the Hungarian and the German did not respect it anymore. And I was marching towards Germany. It was sub-zero temperature, and I had no proper clothing. And on the fifth day, a courier catching up with us that we had to take him back to Budapest. That courier was a fake. It was Raoul Wallenberg's doing. When the Russian came to Budapest, and I was staying in a Tatars in the stable, the Russian cut off the running water, they cut off the electricity, and wasn't any food, was no heat. So they was taken to a temporary ghetto, which was formed in Budapest, a temporary ghetto, wasn't prepared, was no food, there was nothing. One day I'm on the street, And I tried to steal some food, and the German patrol stops me, and with maybe about a couple dozen like myself were taken to a German outpost. When we arrived to that outpost, I was told that our job will start every day 3 in the afternoon. We will climb the mountains, and on top of the mountains, we will distribute hot food to the German soldiers who are digged in foxholes, facing the Russians also in foxholes. And after, when we finish distributing the hot food, we will have to carry on the base of the mountain, on the stretchers, dead or wounded soldiers. I was doing that job maybe for about 2 or 3 weeks, I don't remember how long. But the last time, I was carrying on a stretcher down to the base. I was start to descend with the dead or wounded German soldier on a stretcher, and a shrapnel explodes next to me. And explodes and tears up my whole left thigh. I just sat down like being in a boat, and I was paddling myself down on the icy slope. When I was on the base of the icy slope, I remember not far from there, it was a civilian hospital. Instead to rest, I went to the hospital, and I begged them, please help me with my leg. Under anesthesia, they took the fragments of the shrapnel out from my leg. And when the whole thing was over, I begged them, please keep me there. As long as I was useful to the Germans, they kept me alive, but if I'm useless, they will kill me. The answer was, if they find out they are harboring a Jew, everybody will be shot. I had no choice. I wobbled back to the place where I was staying. 3 o'clock, everybody jumps up. I try to get up myself, but unable to stand up on my feet. The German guard comes to say, what's wrong with you? I said, nothing wrong with me, I want to go to work. But the dirty, blood-soaked breeches and the opening where they tore my breeches apart, the bright bandage what they put on that morning, and they told the whole story. So the guard said, look like you are wounded. You stay behind today. And later we will come back for you. We will take you to a German hospital. All that afternoon went through my head. German hospital? There's no such a place. I never heard such a place. Whoever was taken before me, whoever was told to take him to a German hospital, no one ever returned, no one ever sent any kind of message. But around 5 in the evening, they came back with 3 guards, horse and buggy. They put me on the top of the buggy. And they also put 2 fellows who was also stayed behind. They put us on a wagon and take it to the cemetery. When I found out that we wind up in a cemetery, and that was a German hospital, the 2 fellows who was also with me, they helped me up. And I was looking down the barrel of a rifle, and that's all what I remembered. It must be the next morning when I cannot catch my breath, I cannot breathe. And I feel around, and I felt the 2 fellows who helped me up, who helped me to be able to stand up. They was laying across my chest with their body and their blood, kept me not freeze to death in a cemetery. And I just realized at that time that I just survived a firing squad. I reached that hospital, I remember that I was told that I'm not welcome there, so I find an opening where they kept the charcoal, and I covered myself with charcoal. I was hiding over there for a couple of days, but for thirst, fever, I had to put something in my mouth. And I was wobbling around, and must be a morgue because there were several marble tables there. And one of the tables I found a plate of fried chicken, solid frozen with green mold. All my life, even today, I'm allergic to poultry. I can't eat no poultry. It makes me sick. But every day, I broke a small piece of the chicken, and with my charcoal hand, I scraped the green mold from the chicken, and that's what I ate. Later on, the shelling, the noise got closer and closer to my hiding place. And one morning, I hear Slovak conversation under my hiding place. The Russians are there. After a couple hours later, when the thing kind of quieted down, I climbed out. I went to the main place in the basement, and I stopped the first nurse, and I asked them to please help me with my leg. And they took care of me. They gave me a cut, and I made myself some crutches, 2 broomsticks. I put on some rags on top of the broomstick and was able to wobble around. I figured since the Russians are there, pretty soon I was able to go home. But I found myself in marching again. The Russians lined me up with a couple hundreds of German prisoners of war in German uniforms, in Hungarian prisoner of wars, and were marching to the only one existing bridge to go to the other side of the river. And as I'm walking, a young girl kind of motioned me, and I went towards her. I broke through the line, just disregarding the Russian guards with the machine guns. I walked to her, and she told me, get lost. Get lost. This column is going to Siberia, get lost. By the time I digest what she's telling me, she disappeared. I stopped the first pushcart. I said, do you mind if I help you to push the pushcart across the bridge? He said, fine. So when I'm on the other side of the bridge, I stopped the first person. Please give me direction how to go to the railroad station. I want to go home. Budapest is a tremendous big metropolitan city. It's getting dark already. I'm still asking for direction. The last person I asked must be a good Samaritan, because he asked me, who are you? So I told him, where did you home? So I told him the name of my city. He said, that's not Hungary anymore, that's Romania. And since the Romanian army was close with the Russians at the end of the war, if I put on a Romanian armband, which is red, yellow, and blue, I will be treated better by the Russians if they capture me. He had me an armband. He took me to the railroad station. I knew one thing. When the whole thing was over, and I realized it, that I'm the only one survived, I knew one thing, that I can't live in that place. I had to start a new life, to go any place and to forget about what happened. For me, I could crawl in a corner and feel sorry for myself, which will never help me. So when I left Europe, when I came to the United States, I want to start a new life, and that's what I did. So yesterday is gone. I cannot bring my family back. I cannot just deal with the situation, with what happened. I have to start a new life and to be the whole thing behind me. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift.